Hello, focused learners, and welcome. Listen, I am your master coach, and today we are absolutely taking on one of the most critical, highest stakes components of your entire accounting syllabus. We're going to completely deconstruct the profitability ratios module for the Cambridge 9706 AS and A-level exams, right? I'm talking about the big four here. You know them: gross profit margin, markup, profit margin, and return on capital employed, or as we usually call it, ROCE. Now, we aren't just going to skim the surface. We are going to literally rip these concepts apart, look at the gears turning inside, and rebuild them from the ground up so you can secure those absolute top-tier marks. And more importantly, avoid the brutal, hidden traps that examiners set for you year after year. It's time to stop guessing and start strategizing.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. You might be wondering, why are we dedicating an entire full-length masterclass to just these four ratios? Well, here is the reality check, because they represent a massive 15% of your total marks in Paper 2 of your Accounting 9706 exam. Think about that for a second. 15%? This single topic is the ultimate kingmaker. It is literally the difference between walking out with a satisfactory, average grade and securing an absolute top-tier A-star performance. You absolutely cannot fake your way through 15% of an exam. You just can't. You need an elite strategy, and you need to understand exactly what the examiner is looking for when they review your paper.
So here is our structural blueprint for today's explainer. First up, we've got mastering core principles. Second, we'll hit the technical methodology. Third, we're diving into critical analysis and roadblocks. And finally, we will wrap up with examiner warnings and a recap.
Let's get started with Section 1, Mastering Core Principles, which is all about setting the academic benchmark.
To actually conquer the Cambridge A-levels, you need a fundamental mindset shift right from the start. You see, Cambridge does not reward rote memorization. They just don't. Top-performing students exhibit a connected conceptual understanding, and a huge part of that means understanding the anatomy of the command words. This is absolutely crucial. When a high-tariff question, we're talking those massive 9 to 15-mark questions, asks you to analyze, it demands that you systematically break down the components of the data. But if the command word is evaluate, the examiner wants something entirely different. They want you to weigh the evidence, look at both sides, and make a highly justified conclusion. And think about the difference between explain and to what extent. Explain just wants the why. To what extent demands that you judge the limits of a decision, acknowledging that maybe a choice is only partially effective. Which brings us to the exact question that separates top-tier candidates from the rest of the pack. Why do students find interpreting complex texts and data so incredibly hard? Seriously, think about it. When you turn the page of your exam and suddenly see a massive, complex trial balance, an absolute wall of financial notes, and a prompt asking you to evaluate the return on capital employed, cognitive overload instantly sets in. Students panic. They freeze up because they are trying to process all those raw numbers at once without any underlying strategic framework to guide them.
And this panic perfectly illustrates the core divide in how students approach the exam. It comes down to superficial breadth versus analytical depth. Now, superficial breadth is what average students do. They memorize the formula for markup, right? They know it's gross profit divided by cost of sales times 100. They plug the numbers into their calculator, they get the right percentage, they write it down, and they stop. They think they're done. That is entirely superficial. The academic benchmarks for Cambridge require logical, structured reasoning. The assessment framework heavily prioritizes analytical depth. So what is analytical depth? It means looking at that calculated markup, seeing that it dropped from, say, 25% down to 20%, and then actively connecting it to the text provided in the scenario. Did the company lower their selling prices just to clear out old, obsolete inventory? Or did the suppliers suddenly raise raw material costs? Depth is answering the why and the so what. It's telling the examiner the story behind the math.
Moving right along to Section 2, Technical Methodology. Let's unpack the procedural framework.
To really understand how this procedural framework functions in real life, I want you to imagine we're stepping into a digital study suite. Let's observe two of our scholars, Alex and Sam. Now, they are tackling a brutal 12-mark past paper question based on a company's rapidly declining profit margin and ROCE, and almost immediately a classic debate erupts between them. Alex is a highly technical student. Alex just wants to crunch the raw formulas, get the precise percentage down on paper, and move on to the next question. Sam, on the other hand, is the creative thinker of the duo. Sam wants to completely ignore the math and just write a massive, sprawling essay on broader conceptual arguments about market competition and the economy. As the master coach, I have to step in right here, freeze their study session, and introduce them to the ultimate procedural framework, the method mark strategy. This is the absolute art of securing marks for the correct process and clear working, not just the final numerical answer. Think about this. If you just write down ROCE equals 14% and you made a tiny split-second calculator error along the way, you get zero, nothing. But if you show the exact process, every single step, you capture the method marks along the way, even if that final digit is slightly off. You have to prove how your brain got to the answer. So, to guarantee you capture every single one of those method marks, your systematic processing must follow a highly specific, standardized sequence. Let's break it down. Step 1. Identify key elements. You have to act like a detective and extract the exact figures for gross profit, profit for the year, revenue, and capital employed from those chaotic data tables. Pull out only what you need. Step 2. Apply principles. This means selecting the correct ratio formula without any hesitation. You should know them cold. Step 3. Execute analysis. Write it down. Show every single stage of your clear working on the page. Show the numerator, show the denominator. Step 4. Verify results. Take a breath and ask yourself, does this number actually make logical sense for the specific business described in the prompt? And finally, Step 5. Present format.
Now let's talk about that fifth step, because examiners are incredibly strict about the presentation of information. You must use proper exam conventions. You must use proper headings so the examiner knows exactly what you're calculating. You absolutely must use correct terminology. Do not ever write down sales money when the academic term is revenue. Do not write money tied up when the correct term is capital employed. Precision matters. You also need to use appropriate formats, ensuring your percentages are clearly marked and your decimal places follow the specific prompt's instructions perfectly. And finally, clear annotation. This is a game changer. If you are adjusting the profit for the year based on some unrecorded expense you found hidden in note number 3, annotate that adjustment right next to your calculation. Tell the examiner what you did. The examiner is not going to hunt around your paper trying to guess your logic. You literally have to serve it to them on a silver platter.
Okay, right before we have Alex and Sam tackle the absolute hardest, highest tariff part of this problem, the final evaluation, I want to pause our explainer for just a quick second. Listen, if you are genuinely serious about mastering these advanced cognitive strategies and securing that A-star, you need to subscribe to our channel, Ace the Exams, IGCSE O and A levels, right now. Our handle is at acetheexam_IGCSE. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button and, absolutely crucial, enable all notifications. We drop weekly Cambridge breakthrough strategies just like this one, and you really do not want to miss a single technique if you want to dominate these exams.
All right, we are back. Let's dive into Section 3, Critical Analysis, the Peer Deconstruction. So Alex and Sam are actively drafting their model response now, going paragraph by paragraph. But suddenly, they hit a massive roadblock. They're totally stuck trying to evaluate the relative importance of a dropping gross profit margin versus a rising ROCE, and their paragraph linking is completely falling apart. They're essentially just listing facts. They're writing, the margin went down, the ROCE went up. Guys, that is a trap, and it will immediately cap their grade in the lowest marking band. To overcome this roadblock, you need the comparative analysis framework. To unlock the Elite Assessment Objective 3, or AO3, you cannot just list isolated facts like a robot. Top-tier marking bands demand that you identify similarities and differences between the datasets. You must use comparative connectives, words like conversely, whereas, on the other hand, and furthermore. And crucially, every single comparison must be anchored by supported evidence directly from the text. You don't just say a vague phrase like profitability worsened. No way. You say, whereas, gross profit margin declined by 4% due to rising supplier costs mentioned in Note 2, ROCE conversely improved 18%, suggesting the new bank loan was utilized highly efficiently. Do you see the difference there? That is how you secure top marks.
So, the underlying crucial point here is implementing the ultimate problem-solving loop. This is exactly what we drill into Alex and Sam. First, deconstruct information. Take that chaotic, terrifying scenario and break it down into logical, digestible steps. Second, solve systematically. Use that 5-step method mark sequence we talked about earlier. Don't skip a single step. Third, and honestly most importantly, evaluate and recommend. This means stepping back, checking your findings for reasonableness, and making highly justified recommendations that actually answer the specific prompt. If the prompt asks if the directors should be worried about the company's future, your final sentence must definitively state whether they should be worried, and it has to be backed up by your synthesized ratio analysis. Don't leave the examiner guessing what your conclusion is.
All right, now it is your turn. We are jumping into an immersive workshop segment. I'm going to put 60 seconds on the clock, though you can totally pause this explainer if you need a little more time. I want you to read this poorly written student response and find the errors. Okay, here's what the student wrote. The company's profitability is better this year because the profit margin increased to 15%. Also, the markup is good. They should keep doing what they are doing because making more profit is always beneficial for a business. Okay, time is up. Did you spot the 3 massive flaws in there? Let's break them down. First, it completely lacks specific context. What company are we even talking about? What were the previous year's figures to compare that 15% against? Second, saying the markup is good is entirely subjective. It's an opinion. It lacks any numerical evidence or comparative analysis. What makes it good? Third, the conclusion is just a generic, sweeping statement. Making more profit is always beneficial. Well, obviously, but that doesn't tie back to any strategic business decision outlined in the specific scenario. This kind of answer would score practically 0 for evaluation. It's just fluff.
And that breakdown leads us directly to the ultimate principal examiner alert. This is pulled verbatim from the official Cambridge reports. Always link every point to the given scenario. Read it, memorize it, burn it into your brain. Providing generic answers, like saying a higher ROCE means better efficiency, will completely derail your problem-solving execution. Think about it from their perspective. Examiners read thousands and thousands of papers. If your answer could logically apply to literally any random business in the world, you are losing marks. Your answer must only make sense for the specific business, the specific numbers, and the specific context presented in that exact exam paper.
Which brings us to our final section. Section 4, Examiner Warnings and Recap. Let's look at the trapdoor.
Our scholars Alex and Sam now understand exactly how the examiner tests them. It was a huge breakthrough for them. Alex realized that raw math without context is basically useless, and Sam finally realized that writing beautiful essays without procedural, numerical evidence is equally useless. To synthesize this entire masterclass for you, I am pulling back the curtain on the top 3 examiner mistakes straight from the principal examiner reports. Mistake number 1, using the wrong approach for the context. This means doing something like calculating markup when the scenario clearly demands gross profit margin analysis based on retail pricing dynamics. Mistake number 2, forgetting format and presentation. This is tragic. It means losing easy, guaranteed marks simply because you didn't show your working, or you forgot to write the percentage sign, or your annotations were just an unreadable scribbled mess. Don't throw away free marks. Mistake number 3, generic, non-specific answers. As we just saw, this is writing theoretical fluff instead of hard, analytical, comparative evaluations grounded in the provided data. So how do you combat these mistakes when the pressure is on? You need this: the last 5 minutes review checklist. When you are sitting in that exam room and the clock is ticking down, you do not panic. You verify. You ask yourself a rapid-fire set of questions. Are my recommendations truly justified? Is every single piece of analysis tied directly back to the specifics of the gross profit margin, the markup, the profit margin, or the ROCE data provided? And most crucially, did I check my answers for reasonableness? Let me give you an example. If your ROCE calculation resulted in 850%, you need to instantly recognize that you probably missed a decimal or added an extra 0. It's completely unreasonable for a normal business. Use those last 5 minutes to fix your method mark steps and correct the error.
Listen, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative question. What is your actual target grade? And are your answers genuinely contextualized enough to achieve it? Crushing Cambridge exams requires relentless, consistent strategy. It's not just about being smart. It's about playing the game correctly. You have the tools now. You know the pitfalls, but execution is absolutely everything. If you found this masterclass valuable, you must hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O&A levels at our handle at acetheexam_IGCSE. Make sure you turn on that notification bell right now so you are the very first to get our next exam hack. And before you click away, go down to the comments and publicly declare your target grade. Commit to it right now. Keep mastering this strategy, stay focused, and I will see you in the next masterclass.